that you will record, that you will install, I beg your pardon, on a server system, not on a client. You can't install domain controller on the Windows 10 or Windows 7, for instance, or Windows 8. You install it on Windows Server product. So what I have here is Windows Server 2012 Release 2, right? So anytime you want to make a Windows Server, a Microsoft Windows Server, a domain controller, you will need to do so by using what is called Server Manager, right? There are different flavor of Server Manager tool. There is the command line version of Server Manager, and then the GUI, the GUI version of Server Manager. So today we're going to be using the GUI, the GUI version of Server Manager. And this is it right here.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry, I think my connection is a little poor tonight again. All right, so I'm back now anyways. So let me connect to the box again. Somebody was trying to ask a question. Okay, so no questions, so I can proceed. So I was talking about Server Manager, right? That you use Server Manager to set up this particular role. And the Server Manager role, or the Server Manager tool, rather, is the tool that is next to the Start button. So you see, this is the Start button here. And next to the Start button, you have the Server Manager. So I'll click on the Server Manager, right?
I need to communicate.
Okay, so this is the Server Manager. To install a role, you see, because it's a server, I can, if I want, make it a domain controller. If I want, I can make the server a DHCP server so that it gives out IP addresses to clients on the network. If I like, I can make it a remote access server. So if I want, I can make it a dark server. If I want, I can make it a rights management server. So there are a number of roles that we can install on this server machine, right? So the role that we're interested in at the moment is the role that will make this computer a domain controller, right? And the name of that role is called ADDS, Active Directory Domain Services Role. That's the role. So if I want to install the role, I'll just click on Add Roles and Features. Yes, so it will bring open this wizard. It pops open this wizard, so I can just next to finish through it. So I'll next. So it's asking me, these are the available roles that we have on a Windows Server 2012 machine. We have 2016, and now there's 2019 in beta, right? So 2016 and 2019 has a bit more features than this, right? But at least you know, this will. These are all the roles. Let me just you know, stop at that so that I don't try to bore some of us who are not, you know, that are not interested in this. I'm just trying to show this because of Said now. So to make it a domain controller, and we will need it anyway, so it means I'm going to keep this VM for our later class, because we're going to get to a place where I will need to show you how to sync, how to do what is called AD. So AD sync, AD connect now, by the way. So what we're going to be simulating then is having a domain controller on premises. And you know, up in Azure, there is domain controller up in Azure. So when you have your users on your domain controller that is on premises, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to create all the users that you have on premises, creating them in the cloud again. Imagine you having 200 users. So are you going to start creating 200 users again in the cloud? Of course not. So a better practice will be to set up a, sorry? Okay, there's an echo coming in from someone.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. Okay, so we will set up AD Connect that will automatically. There's an echo from someone. So if you can kindly please put yourself on mute, you can unmute when you have to talk. So that way it's better for everybody. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, perfect. So it's better now. So the role in question that we need now is this one here, Active Directory Domain Services. So I am going to click on that role, add, next. It's important, that you also follow me with this one. If you're not doing it now, then try to make sure that on your own system, you try to set up a VM and try to do the same thing. So the day I'm going to be walking you through how to do AD sync, we're going to be doing it on this, my virtual machine. So you can also follow me then. So if you're not doing it now, then try your best to make sure that you plan for it, right? So I'll just next. By the way, in case you're doing it yourself and you're wondering, after features, after the roles, we're adding features. What are all these features? Well, roles are there to enable, to lighten up major functionalities on your server system. For instance, if I need to do IP address, I need to assign IP addresses to my clients on the network. I set up DHCP. But there are certain tasks that you want to do that you will not see under the list of roles, right? So those tasks, you call them, they are more miniaturized tasks. They are smaller tasks that you want to perform sometimes. You might not be able to get to those tasks from roles. So that's why there is this concept of features, so you can lighten up the features to get that particular task done. So features are there to augment your roles. You have the roles and then you have features. So a good example is this .NET framework. So you need to install certain thing on your server system. Most of the time it will tell you that there's a prerequisite that has to be met. For instance, if I need to install SQL Server, SQL Server 2012, SQL Server 2016 on my system, it's going to tell me that the prerequisite is that I have .NET Framework 3.5 installed. So you see, I can either download it or come to a feature, this feature section, and then turn it on. So already, by the way, I have SQL installed on this box. So I've already pre-installed this particular feature. So that's what features are there to do. They are there to augment your roles. So I'm going to next again, next, and install this role. So I'm trying to install the role now. So something you need to note is this. There are some roles that you will install that will require you to rebounce your system. They will require you to reboot the machine. Some roles does not require a reboot, right? So it's going to let you know, after the role is being successfully installed, it's going to let you know whether there is a need for you to reboot the system or not. So this is how we set up, by the way, a domain controller. We've not completed the process. Right now, we're installing the role. After the role has been installed, then we need to now make it a domain controller, right? So while we wait for the role, I think we should proceed. Let's do some other things. We'll come back to this one later, so we don't just keep waiting. Or maybe I can take a few questions. If you have any questions you would like to ask, so I can take maybe a question or two. Is there a question from anyone?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah. With
Go
regard to
ahead,
the
yes.
Windows PowerShell.
PowerShell. Okay.
Then with respect to my Windows PowerShell,
Okay.
yes, I have been trying to run the installment for my, it's not working.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you, I have already
Okay.
installed in assistance, and
And
you have downloaded the Windows update, the PowerShell update, that Window Management Framework 5.1.
okay. And did you try
So
to
still,
run it? Did you try to run it from PowerShell itself?
yes, from the PowerShell itself.
Okay, and it keeps giving you error. Do you know? Can you take a snapshot of the error that you get? So maybe share it on the group. So maybe we'll try to just resolve it together. You never know. Maybe somebody already in the group has encountered that error before. So it would be nice if you can maybe take a snapshot
Okay.
error, share it on the group. We can all learn from it. And if there's somebody that has encountered the error, so maybe the person can tell us, and I can also look at it and maybe make a few comments on it. Is
Okay.
that fair enough? Yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. So maybe one more
Okay.
question.
I,
And,
I have a question, please.
yes, please go ahead, Said.
Okay. Though I'm used to working with Windows Server 2008, and
All right,
in
Said.
2008, so the installation of ADS is a row on its own, and ADDS is also a row. But looking at this installation now, it
Yes.
seems both the ADDS and ADLDS are installed together. So is there a way you can install, since we don't need the ADLDS, is there a way we can just do the installation of ADDS alone and leave out ADLDS?
Um, okay, maybe you're trying to mix up a few things. You mean the domain controller, right? Is there a way you can install ADDS and
In 2008, you know, AD lightweight
okay,
lightweight is
ADLDS.
an install is a row on its own. ADS is a row on its own.
Okay.
So AD is a row on its own. So I will choose to install ADDS, and if I don't need ADLDS, but in this installation now, it seems you installed ADDS and ADLDS
No, I did not
together.
install ADLDS. I'm installing ADDS. What is installed for ADLDS is tools, right? They are called admin tools. So just in case, if you decide later on to install ADLDS, you can still use these tools to manage your ADLDS. But for the role in question, for the ADLDS role, no, I did not install it. I only chose one role, which is ADDS. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
okay. So
Okay.
that means there is still another row called ADLDS.
Yes, there is a role called ADLDS. It's a light version of ADDS. But don't let's get into that so that we can make some progress, right? You know, ADDS, ADLDS, that's infrastructure stuff. You know, maybe if we're doing a Windows Server course, then we can talk a bit more on that one. So let's just hit the nail on the head now, and so that we can move, forward with the. But in a nutshell, ADDS is is a directory service. You use it to manage identities, right? ADLDS does the same thing, but it is a light version, a lightweight version of ADLDS. So ADLDS allows you to create multiple instances of your domain. You see, I don't want to get into this, so I don't also confuse some people. So Mr. Tunde, can we just not talk about this one in this class, right?
Yeah, no problem,
Okay,
sir.
okay. So we can make some progress. All right. So the role has been installed now. So let us make it a domain controller. How do we make it a domain controller? I'm going to click on this, promote this server to a domain controller. Promote this server to a domain controller. And for some of you, you might be trying this on your own too. And maybe you mistakenly clicked, you mistakenly closed this window. And then you're wondering, oh, I mistakenly closed the window. How do I get the window back? Right? So no big deal. So if you've closed it, it's not the end of the world. So you can get it back. The way you get it back is from this server manager, this notification area in the server manager. You can see this place with this yellow and with an exclamation mark. So I just need to click on the notification area and I'll be able to do the same thing. Right, so just keep that in mind. If you've clicked and you're still not getting it, so you can, I mean, if you've mistakenly closed it, you can always get to it from here. So let's quickly make it a domain controller, shall we? I will click on this, promote this server to a domain controller. Right. So he's asking me a few questions. Do I want to add a domain controller to an existing domain? Do I want to add a domain to an existing forest? Do I want to create? I don't have all of these things yet, so I just prefer to create a new forest. Saeed has given us plenty work to do. Sorry, this is outside scope, but Saeed asked the question, and I'm just trying to also help. We can pick one or two things from.
I am very sorry, sir.
No, it's fine. It would be good for me to just mention a word or two about this, right? So let me start with what a domain is. A domain. What is a domain? You see, when you have a network, we know the essence of networking is to be able to share information. So if you don't need to share resources, then there's no point of having a network. The reason why you want to have computers connected to one another is because you want to be able to share resources. One computer probably has a printer connected to it. Another computer has an internet on it. So you can share that internet on that computer to the rest of the computers on the network. You know, the other computers can print to the computer that has a printer connected to it, right? So that's why you have networking. So you can have a decentralized network where everybody is operating in that fashion. You know, everybody just have their computer, yes, their network, they are all connected together. But imagine if that's the case. If I have 100 computers that are all connected with one another, and I need to manage user accounts on the system, you know what I'm going to do is to be jumping from one system to the other to manage the user account. And let's take an example of an environment with multiple floors. You know, the organization is having first floor, they're in second floor, they're in third floor. Or let's take a good example of Mr. Babatunde's office. Mr. Babatunde's office is a very big farm. Can I share the name?
Yeah, no problem, sir. Go ahead and share.
Okay. He works with animal care. And animal care is one of the biggest farms. Is it in Nigeria or in West Africa?
In Nigeria.
In Nigeria, okay, perfect. So their site is so big that you know, they have different offices, they have so many buildings in their place. You know, the buildings are so imagine you have computers scattered all over the place. So the IT person is going to be doing a lot of work if that environment happens to be decentralized. So if somebody calls now, my computer is not doing this, it will need to go physically to that system to attend to the system. So that's the problem with decentralized network. You see, so if you want to mitigate that problem, you want to address that problem, the way to go about it is to make it centralized. And the way you centralize your network is by setting up a domain controller. This thing that we're setting up now, this is how you centralize your network. You set up a domain controller such that all of your users now will connect to the domain controller. You create an account for them on the domain controller. You join them all to the domain controller. So if anybody complains, I want a software, you can push the software down to the person from the domain controller. If, say, maybe the head of HR is complaining or the boss is complaining that why are people playing games on their computer? They are supposed to be working, but they are playing games. I want you to disable games on all the computers. You don't even have to tell them you did it. You can just do it from the domain controller and it affects everybody. You get the picture. So that's the whole idea behind centralizing a network using domain controller. So when you hear that term, domain is that central authority for your network. Is that central authority that brings all the different resources on your network all together, right? So I believe this should make sense now. When you hear domain, it should make some sense to you now. Forest is another one. Forest is a broader term, right? That is used to explain when people have multiple domain controllers and they are different organizations. One organization can get so big, like let me use animal care, Mr. Martinez's example again. They have offices in Abuja, they have offices all around Nigeria. So if they have a domain controller in state, for instance, and they have another office in Lagos, of course, they cannot use the same domain name in Lagos as they are using in Ogun State. The domain controller they have in Abuja, they cannot use the same domain name because everything is interconnected. So it will conflict. So it's the same organization. So they can set up one domain, maybe at the head office, then the other branch offices, they can be child domains, right? So the child can join the parent. So it's still one domain, right? But how about if we're talking about multiple companies? There is Animal Care, there is Icon Systems, there's Microsoft. That's multiple domains. They have their own multiple different domains. But if there is collaboration, there is relationship between them, there is working relationship between them, then they can set up trust. That's forest now. So forest is a term that is used to refer to multiple domains. So that's what forest in a nutshell is used to refer to, is used to explain. So in this example, I'll go with New Forest. So if you're doing yours too as well, just choose the New Forest option, and then you can specify your domain name. So my domain name, I want it to be, how about I call it Icon Systems, iconsystems.com. That's the domain name that I want to use. So I'm going to click next. Okay, so I will I'm waiting for it to complete these tasks. Okay, so while we're doing this, if you have any question you want to ask, you can ask. Okay, I think it's ready, so we can proceed. Let's just proceed. So I will give it a password, a DSI remote password. All right. We'll click next and next. And so right now is going through the prerequisites check to see that everything is intact. If everything is intact and everything looks good, it's going to give us a thumbs up. It's going to give us a pass mark. So if we get the pass mark, then we can install. So we're waiting for the pass mark to happen. Or if there's no pass mark, then it gives an error. It tells us what we're not doing correctly. So we need to go and correct that particular task. And we'll correct it and then we'll redo it again. But I'm expecting things to go well. Perfect. So he told us that all prerequisite check passed successfully. So this is a good sign. So I can just go ahead and install. So as you can see now, this is how we install a domain controller. Installation of a domain controller is what we've just gone through now. After the system is going to take some time, and when this row completes, it's going to reboot the system, right? So I cannot go ahead and start showing you telemetry now because the system is going to reboot at some point. So let me allow the system reboot and then we'll come back to this one. So let's go back to some of our slides, talk about some slides, and then before we come back to the demo. All right, so I have I'm sharing my screen now. So this was where we stopped in our module 5 lesson, right? So lesson 2 is about recommend a mailbox migration strategy. You know, so we said when people migrate to O365, so now we're back to O365, right? When people migrate to O365, they probably have email solution that they are using already. Maybe they are using Gmail, maybe they are using Lotus Note, maybe they are using some webmail, you know, kind of email solution. So you need to be able to identify those, or even, it might even be that they are using Microsoft Exchange Server on-prem. So you need to know what their scenario looks like to know how you're going to be able to migrate those emails to O365. So we've said that O365 has Exchange Online. So it makes no sense, you know, for an organization to be having O365 license and then still be keeping Exchange Server on-prem, or still be paying for Gmail, you know, or still be using, you know, some other, you know, email application, because you already have it on O365. So what you want to do is migrate those emails that you have to O365. That's to Exchange Online in O365. So how we're going to do that is what I want to talk about now. How we're going to do that migration is what I want to talk about now. So seeing this diagram that I have on the screen now, It's showing mail migration and coexistence. Mail migration and coexistence. What's the difference? Mail migration means I am bringing what I have on premises, what I'm using before. I'm taking them to O365, such that when I finish the move, if I have some of my users, let's say I have 300 users on premises, and now I have O365, and I found a way to move all the 300 users mailbox to Exchange Online, then it means that I don't need the on-prem one anymore. I don't need it anymore. So I would discontinue. It's called decommissioning. So decommission the on-premises solution. So you see, that's migration. Migration. So migration, when you are doing migration, you can have it be cut over or staged. I need you to be noting these things, right? So it's going to be useful for you even when you are doing an Exchange proper class. These are the things that they also talk about in Exchange class, right? So when you want to do mail migration, whether from Exchange, whether from Lotus, whether from your, from your control panel, maybe you're using webmail, you're using Gmail. So it's either you're going to be doing cutover or stage. Cutover, what it means is that I'm just going to wait for a period where or when there's going to be a long holiday. For instance, this Easter period is a perfect time to do cutover. We have the holiday is very long. There's Friday, there's Saturday, there's Sunday, there's Monday. 4 days. So you can look at it if you have good bandwidth and see that 4 days is more than enough for us to be able to move our 300 users to O360. So hopefully when the users resume work on Tuesday, all of the emails has been moved to O365, so we can decommission what we are using before. You see, that's one option. But what happens if you have a larger environment, or if you don't have that luxury of time? You cannot afford to, maybe you work in an environment where without email. So you cannot tell users that, or tell the business that, see, we're doing email now, so you cannot use email for days. You're going to be losing money. So what you can do in that case is do what is called a staged migration. Staged migration. So staged migration means you are not cutting over. It means you are just doing it in batches. So you can say, let's do IT department this weekend. Next weekend, we'll do HR. Next weekend, we're going to do sales. Next weekend, we do people that, all those on the field people. You get the picture. So you've been able to stage your migration. So those are the two migration types. Either you're staging it or you're cutting it over, right? Another option that you have is coexistence. Coexistence. Coexistence is hybrid in nature, meaning you have what you're using on premises before, and now you have O365. A more practical application of this one will be a very large environment. Let's take a look at an environment with about 500 to 1,000 users. 1,500 to 1,000 users. So when you as an IT person, you are telling, you are advocating and then telling the business, the management, please, Office 365 can do all of these things. Let's migrate to Office 365. What the management are going to be looking at is migrating to O365. How much is it going to cost us? Is it cheap? You now tell them that, oh, to migrate to Office 365, maybe you pay $20 per user. And they're now looking at it, but we have 500 users. So they will do $20 times 500 users times maybe 365 is the current dollar rate, times 12, because they need to pay for 12 months. So when they press the calculator and they say, wow, that means we are paying 43,800,000 naira. They will say, do you want the business to go bankrupt? 43 million, for our 500 users. Well, you sell the advantage to them, but it might be that the business does not have so much, budgeted for this solution. Yes, you need to take advantage of it, but they don't have this amount of money. So in that case, what you can sell to them is coexistence. You say, let's make it hybrid. How about we move all the very important, all the HR, all the head of department, the boss, all the bosses, let's move them all to 0365. All the people that their work is mission critical.